living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hey there, welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life. Your Ultimate Life. Hey, I had AI make a picture. Isn't that pretty good, right? Kind of fun using all that stuff. And, I'm going to, in a couple of episodes, I'm going to devote an entire episode to AI, not to educate you, because I'm assuming you're using it like crazy already, but as to the possibilities and the problems, the premise, the promise of that idea. And I like the phrase, the premise and the promise of something, because the premise is the foundational principle. Like, what is the premise? If you think about the 10 Commandments, the premise of the 10 Commandments is God, the Creator, giving us, His creation, some instructions. And you can look at it as this is a bunch of don't do this or I'm going to zap you. Or you can look at it as a prescription for a happy and productive life. And you can look at it as a bunch of restrictions that you push against. Why can't I cheat, steal, lie, commit adultery, kill, and do whatever? And you could say, one answer is because, I'm going to get caught and burned. Another answer is because it's not nice. And the more expansive answer to me is because it makes me into a good person. If I am kind to others, if I truly don't worship money instead of God. He says, no other gods before me. And he was talking to people with wood and stone gods, but it's also money and position and status and all the rest. So the premise and the promise of those, the commandments, to me, whatever they are, 10 Commandments or other ones in other books, is this is a prescription for a fully developed, happy, complete life. Not a bag of restrictions, don't do this or I'm going to blow you up kind of stuff. I choose not to look at it that way. And my life experience shows me that, because I lived recalcitrant and rebellious, pushing against that, doing whatever I want. I did that for a long time. And it got me into trouble, failed relationships, drugs, addictions, and you guys know the stories. And when I have changed that completely in the last 18 years, since 2007, the divine interventions, and I refer to that a lot, but I want to invite you to do something. So we're going to have a whole bunch of invitations today. One invitation is to read the book Tightrope of Depression. Now, just give me a second, and I'm going to hold it up for you. I invite you to take a look at this book, not because you're desperately interested in my previous life, but it's a manifesto of how you can take terrible struggles in your life and turn them into something. And that means your struggles. Mine happen to be a certain bunch, but I invite you to consider the possibility that you're divine, you're capable, divinity, capability, possibility. I say that all the time. You're a divine being. You were made by God, created by God. So was I, lovingly, carefully, intentionally. And so what? Well, the so what is, that means you have divine DNA woven into you. Divine DNA means you're a creator. It means you have the heritage, the characteristics and attributes of God in you. Obviously, in all of us, they're wildly an embryo, because we are all miles out of alignment with that ideal. I interviewed someone for the podcast here a little bit ago, and we were talking before the show about integrity. And he said, yeah, we're all out of integrity. We're all full of crap. And this particular person I know is a person who is fanatic about their integrity. And he was still saying, yeah, and I was thinking about that afterwards. And even this morning also, and just listing the number of ways where I am not in integrity. And what I mean by that is integrity is a set of principles, ideas, thoughts that you believe. I'm not talking about externally imposed, that you should conduct your life by, that you believe it. I don't mean should in the way of shoulding on yourself, but I just mean you hold a set of principles dear. And anytime you think, act, or do anything that's out of alignment, you're out of integrity. Now, that's not an indictment. It's just an observation. So anyway, as I sat and thought about that this morning, I thought, holy moly, there's a boatload of ways where I'm out of integrity. Not that I've gone and done a thing, But the thought, the mere thought of, the entertainment of, the questioning, and I thought that's where the first deviation from the path of integrity starts. Anyway, so this is about creating your ultimate life, and that is daily, moment to moment, choosing to be in integrity with what you think you should be, not me, you, what you believe in your own heart. And then when we're not, which is all the time, fixing it, constantly adjusting things. I heard a guy who's a church leader give a talk. He was a pilot, first, big pilot for big jets, flew for Lufthansa, I think. Long flights, Germany to U.S., Canada, and places all over the place. And he then, got up in the company and became VP of something or other. But he was talking about the thousands of tiny course corrections you have to make with an airplane. Otherwise, you end up way off course. A tenth of a degree out of alignment means you end up after, 6, 7, 8 hours of flying way off course. And the constant thousands of tiny course corrections that the pilot, and now the computers with pilots there, make to the course all the time because of externalities, wind and wind shear and, difference in atmospheric pressure and just all kinds of stuff, right? So that is the truth of creating your ultimate life. Your ultimate life is a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, in order to do that, you got to have a destination. What is your purpose? What does your ultimate life look like? I have a clear, crystal clear picture of what that is for me, with massive amounts of detail and all kinds of emotional excitement attached to the detail. I know what it feels like, looks like, smells like, and everything. I know what my reaction is to each of those things, physical and spiritual. I also am keenly aware of when I'm in a place at all of like deviating from that course. And that's the integrity issue. So integrity is a key piece of this. Now, today, I named this episode Disruption, Friend or Foe, because when you think about getting on or off course, think of the airplane or your life, tons of things pull you, invite you, push you, drag you, beat you, whatever the right word is, probably depending on the disruption and how well you feel that day, off course, off course, off course. And so then the question is, what are you going to do? I'm tired. I'm going to let it go. Oh, I'm off course. Gee, I better think about that sometime. Oh, I better look at that right now. Or, an instantaneous reaction. Okay, little course correction. Because you and I both know when you get off course very long, and it's a ways down there, it's a lot more work to get back on course. Harking back to my 2007 divine intervention that woke me up from addiction and, ruining my life, et cetera, et cetera. That was a massive shift. I was way the heck off course. In fact, I didn't even know where course was. That's the part of the PTAC I've talked often about, personal truth. One of the most important things I've done in the last 18 years is choose my course. That's where I'm going. That's who I am. Because otherwise, how the heck do you know you're off course? I mean, you're free to live any way you want. I don't care. I'm just going to go with the flow every day. And I have a client that has done that a lot. And they said, yeah, I've done all right. And then listed all these things. They came back about a month later and said, in thinking about this, I have done that. But I also noticed that I'm starting to really believe that my ultimate expression, my ultimate goals, my most powerful contribution isn't just by going with the flow and doing what seems right at the time. There needs to be, and this is him talking, some structure, some focus in order for me really to achieve that. So that, we talked about what that meant and what a discovery that was, because that's an internal shift. I could say that forever and it wouldn't matter, but when you discover a thing. So today is about helping you frame disruptions in your life. How are you going to frame those? Okay, so here's a possible definition. Let's define disruption as an unexpected change, something that rattles the status quo. You're pulled off course. All right, and maybe a sudden gust of wind blows your plane off course, since we used the aviation example earlier. So it might come from many forms. Some event outside of your control. Your business partner rips you off for $100,000 or $1 million. or some customer leaves a 0-star review and rips you to pieces on some social, or on feedback if you sell on eBay, or at work someone runs to your boss and says all kinds of things about you. All those things can happen, and they bash you off course. One, how could they say that? And then you personally start wondering, what's wrong with me? And then there's another thing, wow, what's the boss going to think? Oh no, is my reputation ruined, my chances for promotion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things do and can happen. Now there can be tech shifts, like we're in the middle of AI. I mentioned that earlier, and I'm going to do a episode on that, about the monumental change that it is and how to use it beautifully, faithfully, clearly, elegantly, effectively, ethically, and everything else. Always a lot of questions about ethics of this, that. That comes from people trying to dance at the edge. You can use these tools fabulously and well without trying to get to the edge of something. How far can I go before it's unethical? Well, why don't we stop worrying about that and just use it for all the good stuff without worrying about the fringes? But, somebody's always going to do that. Anyway, those are disruptions. Now the question is, what are your personal disruptions? You can have a little one. Okay, I got a message from a client the other day that said, I don't know if I want to, keep going. I don't know if I'm ready to do all the things you're asking me to do. And it's not going to hurt me if that client says, I'm done coaching. That isn't going to hurt me. My business is thriving. I have clients. I'm doing all kinds of good stuff. But it makes me sad for them, because the truth is you and me, we're only as powerful as we choose to be. We are only as prepared as our daily routine. We are only as committed as the clarity of our vision. If we have a fuzzy vision out there, well, it's really hard to get committed to fuzzy stuff, out of focus picture. It's not fun. So get clear on your vision. That is a tool to get around disruptions. All right. So about some of mine. I died in 2018. I got a fatal illness, necrotizing MRSA, right? And that's a terrible superbug that is antibiotic resistant. And I talked to a lady the other day that said, wow, she had it on her elbow once and it about wrecked her arm. I know somebody that had to have a limb amputated because of that. Well, I had that in both my lungs and in my bloodstream. And the infectious disease head at the university told me that is a death sentence. He said the 10-day kill rate of that is 100%. And I didn't even get to the hospital till the end of day 5. So my survival was a miracle. That was a disruption. If you want the details, it's in the book, Meeting God at the Door. Meeting God at the Door. Looks like this. Meeting God at the Door. I've got a green screen on, so it's showing there. Meeting God at the Door. Conversations, choices, and commitments of a near-death experience. Tells you everything that happened. I had 3 conversations. Anyway, it was a massive disruption. Coma for 17 days, couldn't walk, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of traumatic stuff. Now, there can be little disruptions. I'll give you an example. I bought a camera online in a store in Canada, and all of a sudden I wasn't getting any, it didn't get an invoice, didn't get an acknowledgement of payment. And I paid him, and it's quite an expensive video camera, several $1,000s. All of a sudden I began to think, oh no, what if it's a scam? What if it's a blah, 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 blah. So we got a hold of PayPal and call. And finally, after several days, got a hold of the merchant. Still don't know if they're going to deliver. Promise, etc. So that is a disruption, certainly not one as big as dying. Not feeling good. You guys know from my story that I've got back problems sometimes, and I use cane sometimes, et cetera, et cetera. And some days that's more of a disruption than others. All right, so those are mine. Right now I want you to think of yours. Internal disruptions. Right? I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm lazy. Why do I always get distracted? And on and on and on. Those are all disruptions. And they come from internal stories. They come from your own beliefs. They come from bad childhood experiences that you've allowed to perpetuate to your adulthood. And boy, I did that for decades, literally decades, all that kind of stuff. So here is the issue for you. Disruptions, friend or foe, is the way I want to talk about this. And so I want to give you some contrast as we go through. Friend or foe, because they can be either one. Like I've said before, terrible experiences can ruin you or they can refine you. Ruin you or refine you. And you know the cool thing? You get to choose. And the other good news is even if you've chosen up to this very day to let some terrible experience ruin you, you can now choose to let it refine you, because the decision is not permanent. You can choose to get lessons and make choices so that it refines you. Disruption is going to expose your comfort zones. When things get blown out of proportion, you're going to rip the cover off your mediocrity. And where are you settling for mediocrity? Right? Disruptions and the choices you make with them are what life is made out of. The most important thing you or I have to offer is the story of our life. And I don't mean a memoir. I'm talking about the growth choices we make. Now, here's a second invitation. I want you right now, if you're not driving, to go to www.dreambuildwriteit.com. www.dreambuildwriteit.com. 3 times a year, I conduct a challenge that is an invitation to explore your life story and make money with it, save the world, change the world, do big things. And you might think my story's not interesting, I can't do that. That's nonsense. That's fear talking, and it's just not true. Because you are striving for success. You are striving to add good to the world, or you wouldn't be listening to this show. And the story of your growth, your choices, your resilience, ruin, refine, the story of your circumstance is your most valuable asset, and mine too. www.dreambuildwriteit.com. Go there and join the next challenge. All right. So when you have disruptions and they blow off your comfort zone and they expose mediocrity, instead of getting angry, or after you've been frustrated or angry for just a minute, why don't you choose to look at it as the refiner's fire? And I know that might be uncomfortable. You might say, why do I got to have a refiner's fire? Why does everything have to be so hard? Okay, it's not. What if we don't? What if things went through life easily and we just cruised and we didn't have to fight and we didn't have to work hard and it just cruised, and mostly a few little things here and there, but mostly it was okay? How powerful are you going to be when you're dead, at the end, when you're finished? You and I, we came into the world with nothing, right? Helpless, tiny baby with nothing. When we leave, we're not going to take anything either. You know that old Alan Parsons song, can't take it with you, no matter what you do. And it is all the physical stuff, positions, power, money, houses, cars, whatever. You're not going to take that with you. And it's not even going to matter. The only thing me and you we're going to take with us is what we've made out of ourselves. Well, that's the refiner's fire stuff. So I'll just talk about me, but I want you to hear it for you. If I go through life avoiding, skating, not having tough things, then that's the only refinement I get, mediocre. So I'm going to show up at the end, dead, only refined in a mediocre way. I can't stand mediocrity in myself. Then my answer is bring on the fire. Bring on the fire, because when I go home again, and I did that once dying, when I go home again, I want to stand there as refined as I could be. I want to have done everything I could with the circumstances I had, hard or otherwise, to be as refined as possible. That's what I want. I'm not telling you what you need to want. But I can tell you, the refiner's fire is a gift. It's not an enemy. Okay, so that is one way to think about that. Now, here's another one. If you think of disruptions as a friend, it invites you into fierce life ownership. Now, you know my mission this year is to visit with, reach, talk to 300 million people. That's a wonderfully big number, right? Talk to them about what? Well, message, method, mastery. Message, method, mastery. Message is what the possibility is. Method is how to get there. And mastery is ultimate fierce life ownership. Now, the message is really simple. most of us, in fact, I would say all of us, to some degree or another, live at one end of our possibility. And there's a continuum, and I realize that. You may be well on your way. I'm not trying to offend anybody. But the unholy trinity of characteristics over here are learned helplessness, where we believe we just can't do anything, addiction to mediocrity, where we just settle, and victim mindset, where we're talking about everything happens to me. The other end of that rainbow, where the pot of gold is a fierce life ownership, where you realize you create everything you have. A vivid and powerful commitment to excellence, where you choose to demand excellence of yourself. We can't demand things of others, but demand excellence of yourself. And we live every day with a heart, a yearning, a love, a commitment to service. So the message is, you and you alone can move from addiction to mediocrity, learned helplessness, and victim mindset to a place of fierce life ownership, commitment to excellence, and a yearning to serve. That trinity is the most happy place in the world. If you take fierce life ownership and you do it and you create your life every day, and you love serving and you have a commitment to excellence, that doesn't mean perfection, but a commitment to excellence, that is the place of the most joy I have ever experienced. I want you to think about that. I've never been satisfied with mediocrity. I've never been satisfied with the victim thing. And I don't believe you truly are either. So it is a catalyst. Disruption is a catalyst. It calls forth awareness. It calls forth the opportunity to serve, to grow. And you know exactly what I mean. Now, if we treat it as a foe, then it's going to be, I refuse to adapt. I'm afraid of it. I get mad at it. I rail at it. I yell at whoever caused it, whether it's God or the universe or the economy or the election. You know, you get people running around frothing at the mouth. I live in Canada, but we just had an election too, so it's the same up here. You got people running around in the United States and Canada, at least, frothing at the mouth about the fact that Trump won the election. There would be people frothing at the mouth if the other way had happened, right? Blaming that outcome for your problems is the most ridiculous waste of time, because it doesn't change anything. It doesn't advance our growth. If either one of us did it, it doesn't do that. So quit pretending that it does. If you want to protest, if you want to vote different, if you want to encourage this or that, go ahead. But blaming your lack of possibility and success on an externality is like that guy that stood at the seashore trying to hold back the tide. I forgot his name. It was a mythology story about some dude, some king, and he thought by the power of his royal presence he was going to hold back the tide. Well, that's nonsense. You are sovereign. Act like it. All right, another a role of discipline. I want to talk about the role of trust and discipline in navigating disruption. Trust and discipline, those are two super powerful words. Trust in your own ability. Trust in your divine capability. You can refuse to believe in God if you want to, but you have had circumstances in your life where you know there has been intuition. Call it your higher self, the higher power, the universe, whatever you want. There's something bigger than you, and you know it. Trust. Trust. Learn to develop that intuition and then trust it, which means take action. That is particularly important when some big disruption has happened. Something has shut you down, pushed you off course, blown up what you were trying to do or whatever it is. Trust there's a path back. Trust there is a way forward. Trust there is possibility ahead. It doesn't mean it's easy and you won't have to crawl over some broken glass or walk over some hot coals. But trust is so critical in generating the power to do that, because if we don't trust that there's anything going forward, then the only thing we're ever going to do is stand at the edge of life and stick our toe in and wait for somebody to promise us that it won't be difficult. Not going to happen. No one is coming. So discipline is the same way. Discipline, some people think, is a harsh word. I have a client who says she loves the word discipline. It comes from the word disciple, which means a follower of. Are you a follower of excellence, a follower of fierce life ownership, a follower of your own gifts and talents? Most folks don't recognize or value their own gifts and talents. They don't honor and realize the power and opportunity that they have. So I'm speaking to you now. Your gifts and talents, your things that you've developed, the stuff you know you do well, the learnings from your life experience, are you sharing those with others? Because when we overcome something, you know what's funny? One of the first things that happen is we have this yearning to share with other people to help them avoid the pain, discomfort, struggle that you or I have endured. So make a choice. Make a choice, because the choice is yours to prepare every day. That's why the PTAC is so important. Another invitation for you is the book Living with Purpose and Power. And I don't have it right here. Oh, yes, I do. Right here. Living with Purpose and Power. I invite you to read this. This is the best book ever written about how to create your life purpose. People say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, it's not going to come in an Amazon box. You're going to go, and you're not going to go dig it up in the yard. It comes when you mine your gifts and talents. It comes when you dive into the service of others. There's a triple helix. Your skills, the things you've learned and are probably selling in the marketplace, your gifts, which are those natural proclivities you and I came with, and your life experience, which is the basket in which all of that unfolded. Those things together, you can find your calling, your yearning. And that yearning will power you through any disruption. Disruption. So here's another modern day disruption, AI. You got people frantic about what it's going to do. And I listened to part of the testimony before the United States Congress the other day about Sam Altman, the guy that's running OpenAI, a ChatGPT company. He talked about some scary stuff. But it's only scary if you don't plan for it and use it. If you want to sit and imagine a future where AI becomes sentient and we're all going to be subject to robots, go ahead. You can imagine that and be a prepper and doomsday watcher for that if you want to. I don't know how fast and how intelligent and how capable those devices are becoming. I know it's way faster than you or I know, because the cutting edge is never what's available to consumers and even smart people that read all the articles. Way past that, experimental things. So instead of worrying, take that disruption and use it. Okay? I remember in the 80s when synthesizers first came out, musicians of the world thought that was going to be the end of orchestras and music, the music industry. And it's turned out here now 30 years, 40 years later, it's not at all. They're just another tool. AI is going to be the same way. And this tool is getting better and better and faster and faster. And who knows if there's going to be a point of singularity where it exceeds our ability and attention. Artificial general intelligence, AGI is what they call that, where the AI can think and reason and do everything a human brain can do. I don't know, a year, 5 years, maybe that will come. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare and I'm going to use it for all it's worth. I just had a convo with Chatty this morning about a university I'm creating. I am launching Your Ultimate Life Coaching University in January of 26. It's going to be the most powerful, best coaching university in the world, with the most powerful, profound graduates, the most awesome prepared. And you know why? Because AI is going to disrupt the coaching industry. It's going to blow it to pieces. Mediocrity will no longer be allowed because AI will perform at the level of 85 to 90% of coaching today, which is formulaic and information driven. Well, no Olympic athlete got to the podium with information. No one got to the podium in any field with just information. The transformation, transmutation, the biggest word you can find, which is a state change in the beingness of someone, that's what got you to the podium. When you move from I can't do this, I doubt myself, to I know I can. And information, however sophisticated, does not provide that growth. So this huge disruption, if AI, use it. Maximize it. Don't cheat. Don't plagiarize. Don't push the edges, but use it. And this isn't the podcast episode to teach about that. And I might do that later. I don't know. But that changes like every minute. I'm 2 months ahead, so I'm recording this. By the time it came out, everything I taught about it would be, yesterday's news. I just went and spoke at an event in Philadelphia a few days ago. And one of the speakers on there was a high-powered AI nerd, and he talked about every different platform and his view about what it's good for and so forth. And I realized in 2 or 3 months, that'll all be wrong anyway. And that's okay. That's how fast this is growing. So this modern-day disruption, don't let it wreck your life. Don't let anything wreck your life. You're the sovereign. You own it. All right. So here's one more thing. How do you turn a disruption of any kind, whether it's emotional, in a relationship, financial, technological, how do you turn that into power? Well, let's talk about that. Let's ask always when something happens that wasn't expected, that messes up your status quo. Here's a question. What is the gift here? Because there is always a gift. And we might be inclined to rail first and say there's no gift, it's not fair, and scream at whoever. But the truth is there's always the seeds of greater opportunity. In every failure, there is always the seed of equal or greater opportunity. Somebody said that. Can't tell you who the quote was, and I don't even know if I got it right. But the idea is, I don't care what happens, you can get past it and exceed it if you want to, or you can let it beat the crap out of you and lay down. But you know where that goes. Frustration, depression, bad relationships, addictions, other places or worse. This is your sovereign call to stand up, create your ultimate life. Now, when you ask what the gift is, then say, okay, what can I do right now? And don't say, well, I'll do it when, if you blame an externality or wait for something outside to change, you're missing the point. Sovereign ownership is taking immediate assessment and acting. So if you've got a financial disaster, okay, this happened. What can I do right now? Who do I need to call? What do I need to get organized? What do I need to sell? When I went in the hospital, and died, and we didn't have any idea how long I was going to be there or how long I was going to be in a coma or anything, our, finances were in disarray. Because why? Because I'm a coach and I can't coach when I'm in a coma. So Joy took immediate action to revitalize something she had done for a long time. She was an eBay merchant. So she got a bunch of stuff up, started selling things and getting stuff organized so that we were able to continue while I was helpless and unconscious, moving things. And she did that on top of coming to see me in the hospital. So choosing action over flailing is a way to manage a disruption. Now, in the book, Living with Purpose and Power, that I showed you, there's another document called The Scroll of Truth and Power. That document, read it. It will show you where you're holding back. Because a disruption, like I said, it kicks you out of your comfort zone earlier. It will always reveal, always, where you can take more powerful ownership and create larger growth. Personally, professionally, financially, because none of us have reached the top of that mountain. And the only question for me or you is, are you willing to walk the path? Make friends with the disruption. I don't care what it is, financial, relationship, health, anything else. Make friends. What is the gift here? What is my first step? Inherent in that process is personal growth, refiner's fire, and success. It's not just a rhetorical exercise where you try to distract yourself. It is the path of growth. Refinement, where you use a precious metal and heat to take out all the impurities, is real, and it's available today, right this minute, no matter what your disruptions are. I know it. I promise it, and here's the final invitation. If you have a story of resilience and overcoming you'd like to share, get a hold of me. Go to www.kellanfluckigermedia.com. www.kellanfluckigermedia.com. There's a contact form there. Go there, get a hold of me. Let's talk. I want to have you on the show if you've got a story to tell. If you have another story, but if you have a story you want to make money with and change the world, I invite you to go to the Dream Build Write It, www.dreambuildwriteit.com. Join the challenge. Let's figure out how to turn your life experience into power, passion, and profit as you serve. As a final takeaway, understand that no matter what is going on around you, you are the sovereign of your life. You're creating it in one way or another, whether you're acknowledging it or not, or whether you like it or not. I invite you to take that ownership seriously and create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.